Hi everybody, I'm on our week 9 Blackboard page and I'm going to go over the hand washing lab. First thing you want to do is go to the hand washing results link right here. I'm going to click on that and open that up. I have on these results, I have 4 MSA plates and 4 Saburad plates photographed. These data are representative of the data that your whole class found. So some of these plates are your actual plate. All these plates are your actual plates. So the way we're going to analyze these is here you have an MSA plate. And remember we had 0, 1, 2, and 3 hand washings. For every plate, you're going to take section 0 and give it a relative ranking or a relative abundance of growth as a number 3. So I'm going to call, see all these little dots, they're colonies, and that colony is, all those colonies are representative of the amount of bacterial growth. So you, when you touched your hands there, how many colonies did you leave? So I'm going to give this section 0 a 3. I'm going to look at the next section. If it's got the same amount of colonies, it looks like the growth is about the same, I'm also going to rank that as a 3. If there's a little bit more, I'll rank it as a 4. If there's a lot more, I'll rank it as a 5. If there's a little bit less, I'm going to rank it as a 2. I could rank it as a 1. And if there's no growth, I could rank it as a 0. So when we look at the relative growth on these sections, I'm always going to call section 0 a 3. On this plate, I'm going to look at this section 1 and say, oh, it looks pretty close. So I'm going to call that a 3 also. And when I look at section 2, I say, that looks a whole lot like section 0 and 1, so I'm going to rank that as 3 also. And then when I get to section 3, I notice that actually looks like there's a little bit more in that section than there is here, so I'm going to rank that as a 4. So on your data table, which we're going to look at next, I'm going to write for MSA 1, 3, 3, 3, and 4. Let's look at the Saburad plates. So what you're going to do is you're going to rate the next 3 MSA plates yourself. Then you go to the Saburad plate. Here I have, remember we took the Saburad, we dipped our hands in yeast, we were looking for a transient organism. And these big white colonies that we see here are typical of bread yeast. The one thing that's kind of odd about this one is you also see all these tiny little colonies right here. Turns out a lot of us have yeast as our normal microbiota. And the normal microbiota yeast make tiny little colonies, unlike the bread yeast that makes these big colonies. You might remember in this experiment that for Saburad, we're looking for transient organisms. So we're going to look at only the big colonies. We're going to ignore the small colonies. So on this plate, looking at the big colonies, just like all of them, I'm going to rank section 0 as a 3. And I look at section 1 and I say, has about the same amount of big colonies, maybe a little bit less, but similar. So I'm going to also rank that a 3. I look at section 2 and I don't see any big colonies, so I'm going to rank that as a 0. And this section 3, I actually see a couple, so I'm going to rank that as a 1. So on your table under Saburad 1, you're going to put 3, 3, 0, 1. And then you're going to evaluate the rest of the plates. Notice this. Notice these look like one big blob, but actually there's so many colonies there that you can actually see the person's fingertips. So this, if this is a 3, this one's going to be a lot less. Okay, so now I'm going to click out of here, and I'm going to go to your hand washing sheet. This is your report sheet. This is similar to the report sheet that you have as a hard copy already. Okay, so here we go. Notice, first of all, I changed it to 30 points. I upped the points a little bit because we're going to be kind of short of lab points. You've already done these sections in lecture, so you're going to type in your answers. I put type your answers here in italics, and I did that just so I can find your answers. You can use a different font than mine, but somehow you can put it in color, whatever it is, but somehow make it different than my font so I can find it easily when I grade. Here's your results table. In that what we just looked at for the MSA, there was a 3. Remember, we had a 3, 3, 3, and a 4 for the first one. And you're going to fill these out, and then you're going to average them. So you're going to take these and you're going to write an average of each one of these, and it's these averages that you're going to plot on your graph. So here's your graph, and it says plot the average of your 4 treatments. Effect of repeated hand washing on the abundance of residents and transients. Now, which ones were the residents, the MSA or the Saburad? Which were the transients? So you got to remember that. So here's relative abundance of growth, number of hand washes. I think the easiest way to do this might be to click on your shapes and plot it. So if your average was, the average for the zeros are always 3, right? So we're going to put a bar right there for 3 in one color, and so that maybe that's our residence, and I'm going to put a bar for 3 for the other, but if I put the bars the same color, that could be a problem. So let's change that color. Okay, so one of these are residents, one of these are transients. Remember to build yourself a key so I know what you're talking about. So let's say the blue, and then you might want to type in there somewhere that the blue are your residents, and then you're going to make a little yellow square and put that's your transients. So you want to graph your data so you can see, do they stay the same, do they drop off, or do they increase over our number of hand washes. Where did that go? You might need to, I left this as a Word document, so you might need to move things around. Conclusions, summarize your results. I don't need to see your numbers, I can see that on your graph, but tell me what happened. If you were sitting at the dinner table and you said, guess what, I did this hand washing thing, and these washed off and those didn't, or these washed off, both these kinds of bacteria washed off the same. So give me a summary of what happened in there. Do you accept or reject your research and null hypotheses? Provide a likely scientific explanation. In your data, I think you're going to see a difference between residents and transients. So tell me why there's a difference. Give me a scientific explanation. And finally, did these results turn out as expected? Frankly, one of the things I was thinking about was the amount of hand washing we're doing with the coronavirus. When I wash my hands, do I expect 100% of that, any microbes, any transient microbes to come off my hands? Is that what what do your data say? And how does this experiment support that? So fill this out and get that all typed in there. And then I'm going to put a section underneath here where it's going to ask you to submit your hand washing report. So it's going to be much like you did with your current event. Okay? Good luck.